Hello and welcome back to Death Holler. I'm your host, the Reverend Dr. Death, and joining me via the static on an 80s floor model TV is La Urana. How you doing, Urana? Seems like you got an extra spirit there with you today.
Yes, I dragged the spirit of my long-lost love, my hubby, with me because, as previously mentioned, if I can't be happy in death, he can't be happy alive. So here we are, all together. Also, just throwing out there, I mean, it's basically like a crossover. We got Blue Collar BS, our old network, up in here, the hub. So, yeah, we're here. We're ready. We're ready to do some podcasting.
Yes. Wife is always right.
Yep.
Yes.
That is correct. He is not being forced to say that at all.
Not at all. Well, heeding the advice of that creepy evangelist over at the Hill Holiness Church, we finally put Satan behind us. Well, mostly. This season, titled Haunted Homes and Haunted Hearts, we will be discussing ghosts, spirits, and haints, as the old timers here in Appalachia call them. A subject I'm sure Urana knows a thing or two about since she's been dead for a long time.
Absolutely. And I think it goes without saying that there are definitely going to be some horrors in this house. Eh?
Zing.
But
the film that we opened the season with is a certified classic. It's the 1982 Tobe Hooper ? Film spook show known as Poultrygeist. But before we go toward the light, a bit of podcast business. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure to like, comment, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use. It increases our visibility, and we really appreciate it. And now back to the show. I had three things I wanted to bring up before we go into Attack of the Bees, which is tied into the episode specifically this time. The three movies that I saw recently. Have either of you seen Vivarium?
have you?
It sounds familiar.
Okay.
It's got Jesse Eisenberg, Imogen Poots. They're like this young couple that's going house hunting for the first time, and they're going to be moving in together, and they get trapped in suburban hell, basically, whenever they actually go to the location of their newest home that they're looking to purchase.
Okay, so that's a no, because he looks a little confused, but he's seen a lot of movies, so that's why he had to ask.
What I know Jesse Eisenberg kind of throws me to think I might have saw it at one point.
It's kind of an odd movie. It's like it's a lot of metaphors, but like I mean they're pretty blatant metaphors about. I mean, the guy who directed this or wrote it or whatever, he clearly does not like the idea of the domesticated life.
Well, is it done in the print? Is it done through the lens of more of a comedic, or is it as poor B, or is it actually a serious like horror structure?
It's very serious. It's okay. Like I mean, there's not any comedy to it at all. I mean, and it's not really. I don't even know if I consider it a horror movie necessarily, because it's horrific in the sense of what it is about and what it means for life in general. But it's, I mean, like you're just watching this couple. They're like, they cannot escape this. They get caught in this suburban neighborhood, which all the houses look the same. The only thing different is the door numbers, and their specific one is 9 for whatever reason. There might be some symbolism there, but and they can't get out of it. They can't escape. I mean, the sky looks the same. Every day is the same, which is kind of, part of the metaphor. And they're given this note that says cryptically, raised, and a baby's in a box. And they're like, raised a child and you will earn your escape.
I had this movie. I never watched it.
Okay.
So I know what you're talking about. They're basically transplanted into the environment.
Yes, there's no way they can get out of it, and it's basically a metaphor for like modern life. It's like you're expected to buy the house, raise the kid, work yourself to death, and die, and that's literally what it's about.
There's so much truth to that scenario. That scenario is the whole idea of the rat race is the brutal reality of a lot of things.
Man.
It is.
I mean,
it's a struggle. It's the 21st century's man struggle of you're removing the nature aspect of it, where it's a struggle to nature, and you get the modern version of that where it's the grind.
Yeah, but I think this takes more of a horrific turn or twist.
Yeah, but that's more true than people realize.
Well, and one of the horrific things in this, and I want to spoil this just because I think the metaphor is so like cynical, but like so good, is that literally Jesse, like his character, he's trying to be, he's a gardener by trade, or wants to be. So like he has nothing else to do. He can't stand the kid. Like the kid's like driving him nuts. It's not his, I mean, it's not his kid anyways. And so like he leaves Imogen to raise the child, and while he goes out to work, quote unquote, and all day every day he's trying to find a way out of the subdivision, and so he digs a hole. Like he thinks that maybe if he tunnels out of it, well, basically he digs and digs and digs until his whole body wears down, until he has no energy left in him, and then he finally dies. And basically the son that they raise when he grows up just chucks his body into the dirt and covers him up, and that's his contribution. He worked until he died just to support this kid that didn't care, and threw him and chucked him in the clay anyways.
See, that's so dead on. Like, if no, let me give you some qualifiers for that. If you live in California or a major city, that is a very dead on mentality.
Yeah, you basically work until you die.
No, but that idea that your parents have put the effort in to raise you, and then you turn around and you crap on them. Like, I'm serious, dude. If you lived in California or like in a major hub, that is very much the mindset. That's so true. It's more true than you want to realize. I don't know what it is in the state you're from, but California, that hits a little close to home.
Well, I don't feel like it's as bad here. There's still the mentality of try to, respect your elders, try to take care of, but I mean, it's getting worse over time, especially with drug use and stuff like that, where, I mean, you've got literally grandmothers at like, 30 years old that, are raising their grandchildren, and, and their kids don't care about them because they're out, basically overdosing. So it's getting to that point just for another reason.
The thing with that, like, I understand the whole principle of respect your elders because it's consolidated wisdom, but there's a lot of dumb adults in California. So that whole idea of respecting your elders falls a little flat for me. Like, I understand that, but man, like, there's plenty of old people that disprove that knowledge of consolidated knowledge all day long. Oh, I actually want to see that movie now. I'm pretty interested.
He's going to make me watch it later today.
What? Like,
the one thing that I would say on the other side is Imogen, like her horrific moment is she's dying at one point in it. The son zips her up. She starts to say something. He unzips it long enough to hear her. She says, "What was my purpose?" He literally says, "You were a mother. You were meant to raise me, and now you can die." And he zips her up and throws her in there with Jesse.
That's
look at ungrateful ass fucking kids.
That's a dark glimpse into the future of how people operate.
Do you see why La Yarina murdered her children? She was like, "No, thank you."
I know what's gonna happen. They're gonna overthrow me. Yeah, they're grateful little bastards.
Especially the girl.
Oh man.
Oh God. Oh man. All right. Moving forward.
But as far as the movie, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. I mean, it's a little tedious, and like I said, it's really artsy and the way it's going about it. But man, that message is just horrific. The next movie that I saw, and I literally just saw this yesterday, was the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie.
I hella want to see this.
I'm torn on this one because if it wasn't for the last third of the movie, and might even be the last fourth, it just kind of depends, I would probably give it like a 2.5. It's decent. I mean, I would watch it again, but it's not like something I would go back to. It's not like the original Ghostbusters in that sense, where it's like a 5 out of 5. Would watch it all the time. It's just a perfect movie.
Yeah, even the second Ghostbusters is a good movie in my opinion. I love the second Ghostbusters. I
love the second one.
Oh yeah, I love it too. I know a lot of people shit on it, but I mean,
really?
In general, the horror community.
It's not. They're not horror movies.
Well, not horror, but it's still it's still a scary movie that people review, and it doesn't get good.
Oh yeah, watch the new Ghostbuster Girl movie, and then watch the old one, and tell me how bad the second one was.
Hey,
you might have a different opinion.
We're not talking about our opinion on it. We all in this spirit room collectively agree that Ghostbusters 2 is a good movie, but yeah.
Yeah, this one is weird because it ignores the second movie completely, like it didn't exist.
Wow.
And it it takes a weird take on the movie, like on the what happened afterward. I mean, I'm not going to spoil what happened to get to where they're at, but basically they all split up, and it gives the reason why in the movie. But like Egon's been like living, like a hermit in like this weird, like I don't know if it's like Arizona, Colorado, like someplace it's like near like a desert looking area. But like he's like been living there for like ever since the 80s, whenever they had their heyday, like waiting for like this big event to happen for Gozer to come back, basically. And it's like he was trying to prevent it and nobody else believed him. It's basically the setup for the movie.
You know what? That was probably the best course of any tie-in for a movie, is completely ignore the trash one. Like you just act like it. If Star Wars took the approach and they launched a new movie and they disregard the last 3 they made, they probably have a pretty good franchise.
They're going to try to do that in the future, hopefully.
I've heard they're trying to do that.
Yeah, because they're
let's pretend that none of this happened.
Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding.
It's like the Spider-Man movies. Like when they went off the rails, you just try to ignore what happened. You're like, oh, don't look at that.
All right, Reverend, I'm going to ask a question. I need you to be brutally honest with me.
Yes.
Is it a slow burn? For me.
It is not a slow burn.
Okay.
It's interesting in the sense that they basically recreate the old group, but with children in this one.
See, that sounds awesome.
It does, yeah.
Does it have that 80s nostalgic feel to a degree, or like an old reminiscence?
That's the part that's missing. It doesn't. Like
it didn't hit
more of the...
It's fine, yeah.
It didn't hit like Stranger Things did a good job.
Well, they have that actor from Stranger Things, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because it's got a Stranger Things feel in the sense that that actor's in it and it's about kids, but it doesn't hit that 80s nostalgia like that movie or that show did.
That might be a smart move, because that seems to be things that a lot of people are doing right now in their movies, because there's nothing else great going on.
Well, no, because the 80s is a weird era where you don't have enough technology that you can leave a lot of mystery to everybody's complex.
Oh, yeah.
Like now with modern technology, you can when someone's doing something underhanded motive, because there's cameras and information abundant. Back in the 80s, it was limited. So you can have more diabolical things happening with people not knowing. It gives you a bigger framework to work with to build more of that tension and suspense.
I completely agree in that. I mean, if that's the reason that the 80s worked so well as far as like horror movies, because it's like the technology was limited enough, but there where they could get away with, like some of these things like Ghostbusters where, the futuristic tech, like the proton packs and all that. But at the same time, you didn't have the cell phone issue where you could just call up help and you got to work around that and all the other things they've got to deal with now. The McKenna Grace, who plays Phoebe, which is Egon Spengler's granddaughter in this, she's probably the highlight of the movie, because she literally, it's almost like she's doing a perfect imitation of Egon, but as a young girl. She's just great in it. Like, she even looks the part.
Very analytical, all rational type of person.
She has all that stuff. Like, there's one point where one of the other kids, a podcast, who's kind of a stand-in for Ray or Dan Aykroyd's character, is like talking to her, and like he's like, "Aren't you excited?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm very excited, but it's on the inside." Like, she's like, I can't show emotions.
Oh my God. And I can see they have the sexiest man alive right now. The sexiest goof alive is in this, playing Gruber. So
who?
Paul Rudd.
Paul's in it?
He's currently the sexiest man alive right now.
Are you serious?
Yes, yeah, through people, and like there's all these memes and all these funny. That's why I showed you that video last night. Of
what the funny thing about Paul Rudd is? I bet when he was doing what's that movie he did with Alicia Silverstone?
Clueless.
I bet he had no idea his career when he got older was gonna do as good as it did.
He says it all the time.
Yeah, like his whole career turned around in his older years, like massively.
He can't even take the sexiest man alive title serious. Like he can't handle it. He's like, why?
See, one of my favorite movies he did is a comedy. It's the one he did with the girl, the married couple, the spinoff.
This is 40?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is hilarious. That movie, to me, I laugh because that's so dead on to a lot of relationships.
Shut up.
What?
Stop talking now. Cut the mic.
I don't know what to think about Paul Rudd in this, because I mean he's enjoyable for what he's in it, but like he doesn't contribute anything. His character is like the least interesting character in the movie.
Yeah, I kind of heard that, so I'm like, why did they put him in there? So no purpose.
He's the He's the Louis Tully of the movie, but without Rick Moranis's, like, like that's one thing that people don't appreciate about Rick Moranis. Like, even though Louis Tully was basically just like a non-character that kind of just lived next door, and like, and ended up being, the key master, like he stands out enough due to just like his persona, like, in that original movie. Paul just kind of blends into the scenes. Like, that's the problem with him in this movie. Like, he's got that side character, but like he doesn't have the Rick Moranis, like, personality to kind of like stand out in the role.
To be fair, at the time they didn't know he was going to be the sexiest man alive. Okay, so.
Well, I wonder if they got him in there just for name recognition on the movie.
No, because they have almost all the main characters. They even have Annie Potts in the movie.
Yeah, but they didn't have the sexiest man alive.
They technically had him in the film. They just didn't know he was the sexiest man alive at the time.
They knew.
Yeah, maybe they want him for a pretty face. I mean, you got Bill Murray, you got Dan Aykroyd, you got Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver.
I didn't realize the original cast.
Yeah, so they didn't need Paul Rudd, if we're being honest.
Yeah, because technically
that's the part that makes the movie.
Well, technically,
is the fact that they're in it.
The original guys died in the other one, in the girls one. The dudes got killed. Bill Murray got killed.
Maybe they're pretending like that never happened.
Like we all should.
They're going a different route with this because obviously they had to, Harold Ramis passed away before the movie. And so they have, they kind of have him like when he's still alive, quote unquote, at the beginning of the movie. They have him in like shadow, like his character, so you don't really see his face. It's just somebody standing in for him. But they keep him in the movie as a ghost, which is what they originally were going to do with Peter Venkman. You just can't see him for most of the movie.
Oh, interesting.
But they do bring him back. And that's in the last fourth of the movie or third or whatever that I was talking about. And that scene is it's actually one of those scenes that they did so well. And it's such a tribute to Harold Ramis that it actually, I mean, if you have any kind of heart, whatsoever, it kind of brings a tear to your eye, especially when you see, the original cast come back at that scene and they acknowledge him and they kind of give him that wink, like, good seeing you, buddy, that sort of thing.
You're basically feeling the nostalgia.
I used to love all the Ghostbusters, like the Ghostbuster cartoon.
Oh my
series.
God, that was so good. I think the Reverend and I talked about that.
That is such a good cartoon series, and I that too. But like, most cartoons back then didn't have like a linear timeline, but the Ghostbusters had an overall there's an overall arch linear narrative, or shows like a major catastrophic breakdown of the containment system, but. It's not a linear story frame, but there's enough where it makes one.
Well, as an adult, you see that, but as a kid, you don't care. You just know you're watching something exciting.
I know, but as an adult, you could rewatch it. It's entertaining.
Well, just like I was watching Beetlejuice the other day, and the kids loved it. It's one of those cartoons. We had awesome cartoons basically in the 80s. This is why all the movies keep going back to the 80s.
Well, but they don't even make Sunday morning. They don't make Saturday morning cartoons anymore. You have the big push from all the people saying it's corrupting kids' heads. Let me put them on the computer all day long instead. Like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, that's why I'm going to make a plug right now. And we are not sponsored, but Pluto, if you would like to sponsor our show, they have the After School Cartoons channel.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All the old school animated Batman and stuff like that.
Yeah, Sabrina. Remember? Well, I didn't watch Sabrina as a kid, but the kids were watching that. They're watching Tales from the Crypt cartoon.
I've seen Benny watch that.
Yeah, and so it's got those type of cartoons. I'm surprised it doesn't have Ghostbusters, and I'm sad it doesn't have Ghostbusters or Beetlejuice. I don't know why they wouldn't, but yeah.
My favorite thing about the real Ghostbusters, because there was like this other Ghostbusters cartoon that like I only found out about whenever I was an adult. That's based on some kind of weird like 70s like detective agency that was almost like Scooby-Doo or something. But
yeah.
And they had an ape or a gorilla as one of their members. Really weird, but
that sounds horrible.
It was.
I was going to make a big offhanded joke, but I figured I shut my mouth for a second.
You have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, the real Ghostbusters, the thing I remember about whenever I was a kid is just that I liked it because like they treated the actual show like seriously. Like there was they made it almost horrific at times. Like, I remember, like some of the monsters and like there was just the settings were like these, like one of them was like this dark foreboding like castle or whatever that they had to investigate, and it wasn't like Scooby-Doo where it was kind of like just goofy and they really like there was some danger built into it. Obviously they always won, but
there's one episode from the real Ghostbusters that really stood out to me. It was a vampire werewolf war, and they happened to stumble into it accidentally. and it was a girl that got him into it. The girl was a vampire, but they didn't know she was a vampire, and they ended up in the middle of this war where it was rough. Like there was, like they were tearing each other apart. It was one of the few episodes where it went from ghosts to real life scenarios of theoretical like monsters. It was a pretty cool episode. What?
Nothing. I'm agreeing.
That was the thing though that I liked about that show in particular, and I don't know, like this movie to me, like the stuff with the kids is interesting, and like I said, it was probably like a 2.5, out of 5 or something whenever I was watching that. But they really kick up like whenever they really start tying into the mythology from the original movie with Gozer and start bringing back some of that stuff toward the end of the movie, and then especially when they bring in the original cast. In their suits and everything, it bumped it up to at least a 3.5 at that point. But I just kind of, if it wasn't for that last part, I don't think I would be looking on it as fondly.
Oh my God, Olivia Wilde played Gozer.
She, and she actually does a really good job. I mean, like you can tell it's her whenever they zoom in on her face, but like when she first materializes, she looks almost exactly like that actress from the original movie.
Wow. Okay. Oh my God, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Oh Lord.
Yeah. So, but anyways, that's what I mean. It's worth watching. They put the Ghost Corpse, like CORPS, like logo in front of the movie, so it almost makes me think that it's like the start of something different, because they talked about for years like having branches of Ghostbusters, like in each, that was one of their storylines they were thinking about coming up with. Like each state had their own set of Ghostbusters. It'd be interesting if this kind of like spurs that or something.
Oh, see. If they did that, that gives them a huge framework to get really creative with different ideas.
It also gives them the opportunity to fuck shit up, and not in a good way.
No, that's true. But the idea gives you a big framework where you can have complex stories that are always changing with different characters.
And at that point, you can make a show.
Yeah, but every season would be a new major city.
And that'd be fine. I'd be fine with that, but I hope they don't do movies.
It would never get dull, though, because you would always be changing the cast dynamic, which sometimes if you have a stagnant cast, like American Horror Story to a degree was good, but it got repetitive because the characters were so...
Even though it was like a different character, the actress or actor or I could just say actors in general, made it...
Well, not that, but
it's like I know who this person is, and they're basically playing the same character with a different name.
And then, but not that, but the story premises got super absurd. Like the hotel one lost me. I was like, "Come on, what are we doing?" But other than that's an example of it. But it'd be awesome to reframe it in different scenarios. Every season has like a major bad guy, and then you could frame the cast around the structure of the idea
or the location. Yeah, I could see that. I mean,
that'd actually be pretty cool.
And Dan Aykroyd is extremely invested in this even to this day. So him and Harold Ramis both were, up till obviously his passing away. But like Dan Aykroyd would totally be on board in the scenario you're talking about to like be the tie-in between each season, like maybe meet up with each franchisee or something, or provide like, because they set it up in the movie that he's still working at the cult bookstore, so he could be like kind of like. This is for Supernatural fans, the Bobby, that sits and like gives them the information they need, over the phone, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of need those characters. You need somebody that knows everything or has access to all the information.
Specializes in the occult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of like, whenever they get in and over their heads, which they're going to, like they did in this movie, they're kids, but like, say even if they're adults and they're like, I don't know what this is, it's like, well, let me look it up and, whatever the handbook for this or whatever.
If there's anything Sam and Dean taught us is they need somebody like that.
Oh my God. I hate you guys.
Shut it over there.
See, I got a part of me likes when the good guys don't win sometimes. Like,
there's a little guilty pleasure in
that
for sure.
too, but even if it's not like structured as a good guy, if the anti-hero person wins too, like that's the reason Deadpool did so good. It's not so much of a hero position; it's an anti-hero position, where it's the bad guy doing the right thing. Sometimes also is like you can get
but
really,
it's to their benefit, usually.
Well, I mean, Deadpool killed off a ton of people accidentally when they were parachuting in. That wasn't to anybody's benefit.
Semantics, okay?
But you all have anything else to say about Ghostbusters?
No, because we have not seen it, and we need to watch it.
Yeah, we might watch it today. And then she said that I've wanted to see. You know what I'm excited for is the new Matrix. I'm hoping that is going to be awesome.
We hope so too, but that's not a horror film.
I know. I'm just, hey, look at
It stars a 2-time alum though for the podcast. So Keanu, keep doing it, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Keanu.
I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan. I've been watching him since back in the day, man.
We all have.
Man, you just pouring water on me all day long.
Well, I did drown you.
Oh wow. Yes, wife is right.
The last movie I'm going to discuss before we get into the Attack of the Bees for this episode is Last Night in Soho. It's the Edgar Wright film that recently came out.
I hell want to see. I love artistic movies like that. Like Cold War. I don't know if you ever watched Cold War. That was an awesome art inspired type theatric, and Soho has a lot of those undertones of that art of that filming type of design. I hell want to see that.
I've not seen the movie you're referencing, but it really is. It's like it's all about the artistry. It's like Edgar Wright's taking like everything that he's good at, except maybe the comedy. Although there's a little bit in there, but like it's very minimal. It's not like Shaun of the Dead, but like he's taking all the visual art style that like he's known for and like really amped it up for this movie. Like he's showing like a love for like the 60s era, like like clothing and like the culture and all that, and like really throwing it into this movie, as part of like the backdrop for what's going on. It's set in modern times, but there is a way that he works it in. Through the main character, Thomasin McKenzie, who is basically, I mean, just to give it a little bit, because it's in the beginning of the movie, she's supposed to be a psychic. So like when her grandmother's warning her about moving into London, about her, like maybe she'll get overwhelmed because there's so much psychic energy there that it might be too much for her, because there's the hint at the beginning of the movie that her mother maybe had the same thing going on, and her mother committed suicide while she was in London. And so and at the beginning of the movie, she's one of the reasons she's giving that she wants to go to London is so that she doesn't have to be reminded of her mother all the time, because she's actually seeing her mother as a spirit, in other words, like at the beginning of the movie. So that's kind of the setup for it.
Oh, so she's actually that the clips you see in the commercials is her mother, where she's when you go back to the 60s era.
No, that's the difference here.
Okay,
her mother, that's not her mother. It's funny because Thomasin ends up through her dreams becoming Anya Taylor-Joy's character. And it's like this young ingenue who's just moved into the city. She's trying to make her, like her big debut as like a singer, performer, that sort of thing. And the movie kind of follows that along. And it's got like a really tragic story. Like, I mean, she's a young, good-looking woman. There's people ready to take use and abuse that whole scenario. And and that's kind of where it goes from.
Would you call her young ingenue?
Yeah, the ingenue, that's what they call them. Like like the it's like a phrase for like somebody who's like an up and comer, like somebody who's got like this talent or persona about them that really
it's code word for we can exploit them. Out. Yeah, it's basically code word for we can exploit this person, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're. I mean, that's kind of what you're following along the movie, and that's where. I wouldn't say the movie's horrific in the sense of like, the actual movie itself. It's not going to, there's no jump scares. It's not going to scare you. But as you watch like what's happening and you see what's going on, it's horrific in like the real world, like, watching the fall basically of this character while Thomasin's basically having to live through all of this.
She's living vicariously through Thomasin. See, that's fucked up that they have a Thomasin and Anya Taylor-Joy in this.
That's what I think is really weird, because Anya Taylor-Joy obviously
is Thomasin.
Yeah, she was Thomasin in The Witch, so it's kind of funny.
The Vivitch.
But and then you have Matt Smith, one of the doctors in Doctor Who. He plays her manager. That. Yeah, it's probably one of the darkest roles I've seen him in. He might have been in worse. I've not seen a lot of his stuff outside of Doctor Who, but it's pretty dark.
Yes, he was in The Crown, and that was not dark at all. But he played a very mean Prince Philip.
I wanted the Crown made me wanted to punch that guy. Watching him,
Prince Philip?
yeah, he was just
Yeah.
talk about.
Oh, you should have seen him the first season, which
talk
is this
about-
character,
Yeah,
Matt
talk
Smith.
about no backbone. Like, oh my god.
I think that's why in the first season he cheated on the queen a lot and everything. Like,
Dude,
yeah,
yeah.
no backbone with her, but other bitches. Anyways,
Yeah, wait until you see him in Last Night in Soho. You want to do more than just punch him. I mean, you want to probably castrate him and
See, but all that means is that actor did an amazing job of selling you on
Yes.
what a piece of shit I am.
very good actor for sure. I'm gonna be real honest with you. While you two are like, "Oh, this is the type of movie," I'm like, it's like for me, that's like
You hate
not my type of
artistic.
thing. Oh yeah, it sounds like an absolute snooze fest for me.
See, but you got to entertain the idea that someone was able to take an idea in their head and then put it into full display into a movie structure. That's what the art side of it. That's amazing.
And that's fine.
You got to look at it as the lens of a book. Someone took an idea and put it into words in such an amazing manner.
Fine, but I'm gonna complain the whole time.
Yeah, you are. Where's all the explosions? Like, okay, calm down now.
No one has really died horrifically.
She's not joking. That is 100%. If I watch anything with any type of structure of a good storyline, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to go to bed. That's what I get.
Well, and the thing about this one is it's the combination of like his working the period music into the movie. His art style is the main thing. Like the fact that he's doing this is like a dream sequence. He really uses that to his advantage to make like the camera angles like, more, flashy and artistic, the way that he like, fades the scenes in and out, and the way he works like the stuff inside the dream, it allows him to expand quite a bit.
Yeah, and I do
what he's already into.
I do appreciate a period piece too, so I will say that.
But I mean, without giving away much more about it than what I have, which is more than that I would have preferred to honestly to going into it. But I mean, I know some people kind of want to know what it's about because you see the cover and it don't really give anything away. It's a 5 out of 5. I love this movie.
Wow.
I mean, I'm going to buy
Certified
it as soon
fresh.
as I have the option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Certified fresh.
Well, we have it right now. We just haven't watched it.
You can't say that on air.
Correction.
I would definitely recommend it.
Over in the Netherlands, I have this right now. I like that one. That makes it legal.
Oh my God. I'm going to edit that.
Yeah. Everybody gets a seed box.
Well, with that, let's head on to Attack of the Bees.
I'll cue the music. Oh my God.
So this Attack of the Bees is going to be Poultrygeist, not Poltergeist, but Poultrygeist.
Oh yeah, I watched that, the Beetlejuice cartoon.
You liar.
I did watch it. You saw me watch it with the kids.
You didn't watch the movie.
I didn't
and
watch
that
the
episode was a train wreck.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
This is not the Beetlejuice the animated show episode that Urena is mentioning. This is the 2006 horror musical from the infamous director Lloyd Kaufman, who is
favorite
the
director. This dude is an awesome individual. I love Lloyd Kaufman, dude. He's one of the guys that will put anything out there. He doesn't care. Like, hey, I think this would be fun to put out. Let's do it. Like, I don't know if you know who Zach Amico is. He does Legion of Skanks, but he also helps direct a lot of Lloyd Kaufman's movies for Trauma and stuff like that. And he has the Zach Amico Midnight Spook Show that comes on every Friday, and they play old school horror movies and they talk about them. But he's super trashy, just like Lloyd Kaufman, so it's hilarious.
Well, no wonder you like him. He did The Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like his favorite movie in the world.
Dude, that's a classic.
It is a classic, and actually it's been referenced in several James Gunn movies because this world wouldn't have James Gunn as a director if it wasn't for Lloyd Kaufman. Let's give the man credit for that too, because he gave James Gunn his start in movies. Now, obviously, James Gunn's moved on to bigger things, but I mean, he still gives credit where it's due. He has Lloyd Kaufman in his movies. Kaufman was in the newest Suicide Squad that James Gunn did.
Oh, see, I haven't watched that yet.
And supposedly, the Toxic Avenger's in there in like a just blink and you miss it type scene.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he said it was really, really good too.
Yeah, we haven't watched it. We got it, but we haven't watched it yet.
Well, it's good because it's really good because it's if you watch Slither, which James Gunn did, it was one of his movies he did right before he got into the big Marvel movies and all that. It's got his trauma level sense of humor, but and dark humor at that. Like that, the Suicide Squad has all that. Like he brought it. That's why I said when I was doing the interview, it feels like the best amalgamation of what James Gunn is because you still get that trauma level humor and like dark sensibility about things, but you get in a superhero movie, which he obviously wasn't allowed to do with Guardians because they're like, yeah, we're Disney, we can't do that, so.
See, I didn't realize he did Slither. I love that movie. I didn't like the end of it. I thought the end did a horrible job of putting a bow on it, but overall the movie itself was awesome. Like I didn't realize that was a James Gunn movie.
Yeah, he. I agree with you. The ending of it is not like my favorite, but just like and the movie itself is a ripoff of several movies. There's a David Cronenberg movie, where they've got slugs in it. There's obviously Night of the Creeps. That's one of my favorite movies.
Big time.
That's got that scenario.
I love that movie. Yeah, Night of the Creeps is a classic '80s movie, man. The whole failed prom where they all become semi-slug zombies.
My favorite line in that movie, this is a tangent, but I have to say it, is Tom Atkins, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, girls, good news, your dates are here. The bad news is they're dead.
Oh, my God.
That is a classic phrase. Yeah, it's that old dude with the mustache, man, that was out fighting on the front line, executing everybody. Yeah. Yeah, and that movie had a good ending, too, man. That was an awesome ending for that movie. Like, I'm trying to think, he got infected, and he was, burnt half alive, and then he ended up collapsing at the graveyard, I think, or something like that. I'm trying to remember how it ended.
Actually, you're right. Like there's that, but I think like the main ending of the movie, like they get rid of all of them, or they think they do.
They think they do.
And spoiler alert for Night of the Creeps, like there's a little dog that like has been throughout the whole movie that some woman has, and like it and she's like, oh, come here, whatever, and like she's looking at her dog, and like one of the slugs jumps out of its mouth or its eye or whatever, like into hers, and it's like saying it's going to start all over again.
Oh, okay. Well, at least the dog didn't die.
Yeah, that's a good movie. That's a good horror movie.
It really is. Now, this movie, on the other hand, we'll get into it, but let's go through our principal players in this. We've got Jason Buchanan, who's playing Arby, who is the hero, ? We've got Kate Graham, who's playing Wendy, who's the lesbian love interest ? Allison Saraboff, who plays Mickey, who's the lesbian villain. Caleb Emerson, who plays Carl Jr., who's the hillbilly stereotype and the broomstick penis guy.
Oh my God.
You can't say it's not hard.
That's the kind of movie we're getting in this, people. Khalid Rivera is playing Paco Bell, who's a gay human rights fighter and a loose meat sandwich.
That is a hilarious character. How can you not laugh about that? Paco Bell. That's awesome.
They got Paco and Carl Jr. Carl's Jr.
They're all names of restaurants. Even Mickey is like Mickey D's, obviously.
Oh my God.
I wish I would have. We had this, but I didn't rewatch it. But I watched it way back in the day when it came out.
Oh my God! I remember. I was there, but I didn't continue watching.
The intro of the movie is the best. It has the
we'll get into that
over the top intro.
We have Rose, and I don't know how to say this name, Gavami, who's playing Hummus, who is the hot suicide bomber. And yes, it's very un-PC, people. Joshua Olatunde, who's playing Denny, the black veteran stereotype. Robin Watkins, who's General Leroy, who's the Colonel Sanders ripoff. And the basic synopsis, I'm just going to lay it out for you. A love-spurned high school graduate begins work at a fast food chicken restaurant that was built on an ancient Indian burial ground. The spirits of the pissed-off natives begin possessing chickens and then corrupting the food, which turns everyone who eats it into psychotic chicken zombies. Random songs happen along the way. There's not much more that goes on other than that. There's a lot more that goes on other than that. But I mean, as far as like the plot, that's pretty much it. It's very un-PC and would definitely be canceled today. Like, there's no way they would get by with it in today's censor society. And to me, it is almost a perfect time capsule of post 9/11 George W. Bush America. Like, it really is. Like, Lloyd Kaufman had an axe to grind with this movie.
So it was basically, it was ahead of its time.
It goes places that, I mean, I've never seen a movie. Noah, why don't you give us like the beginning of the movie? You wanted to go in on that. How has this the intro of it kind of?
See, I haven't seen it so long. If I remember the intro, some dude shows up and he gets chicken and eats it, and then he has to go to the bathroom, and I forgot what happens, but it goes. He like turns into something else. Like, I remember it's so over the top how it goes. See, I wish I would have watched it because it would have refreshed all my memory about it. But I remember it's the most over the top scene.
So the main intro of the movie is a little bit before that. It's like it shows Arby getting it on with Wendy. They're high school sweethearts. They're in a cemetery because that's obviously where you have sex.
Absolutely.
Yeah, every zombie movie proves that.
And he's dry humping her. He's getting ready to actually enter her. The spirits that are in the cemetery start getting freaky because they're getting turned on. So they start like popping their hands up out of the ground. And one of them is trying to find Wendy's special place, but ends up going into Arby's butthole. And the finger breaks off inside of him. And... And then a pervert comes in randomly and is whacking it while he's watching them, and that scares Wendy off, and then leaves poor Arby with blue balls, and that's how the movie starts.
That's so fake because he's got a finger up his butthole. We know he can do perfectly fine.
Well, he keeps the finger, and he brings it up to her like years later, whenever she's in college, and like he never went on because his parents, his mother, I forget how they phrase, his mother's retarded, he says, and his dad's just like a bum or something. But anyways,
that's what makes this movie awesome, that they were able to go to the places that are 100% taboo nowadays.
You mean they used historically accurate terminology?
Yeah, well, the word retarded, all it means is delayed.
We know that.
But everybody freaks out, so stop being retarded, people, and laugh about it.
So it skips ahead, and like his girlfriend's now a lesbian. College, she told
his girlfriend's a lesbian.
College wouldn't change her, but it did drastically. Now she's a lesbian, and she's a liberal lesbian. She's protesting the building of this, new chicken place on top of the ancient Indian burial ground that they had sex on.
Hold on, not to sidetrack this, but did you ever see the movie Terror Firmer? I know you had to have seen it.
I don't think I have. It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, I'll give you the synopsis. The guy ends up being some hermaphrodite that gets his dick cut off from his dad, and he pickles it. It's a Lloyd Kaufman. It's a hell of a good movie though, but it's an over the top type thing too.
I think I've seen that with you.
Yes.
Yeah, he made me watch that. Okay.
Whatever. That's a good. Whatever. It's a good movie.
It's basically like this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you're getting with this. But like going back to the finger in the butthole thing, like he's sitting there and he's trying to woo Wendy back, and she gives the vibe that she's not totally like all the way lesbian. Like she's still kind of interested in him, but like the lesbian keeps trying to pull her away. Mickey, the lesbian, keeps pulling Wendy away from Arby, and so it's like, his one thing that's going to save him, he thinks, is he's like, look, I even saved the item from our first time or whatever, and she's like, and it's even more rotted than it was. Like he's kept this like this corpse finger that was up his butt like years ago. Like he presents it like it was some kind of great sex toy they had, and she looks at him like, ugh, get away from me, that sort of thing.
What the
nostalgia,
fuck, you two?
Memories. Hey, women keep weird stuff after their first sexual encounter.
Oh my god!
Hey, it was special to him. Don't judge the guy.
But the scene that Noah's referencing is right shortly after Arby gets employed, because that's how he's going to woo Wendy back, is he's going to make a lot of money working a low-level entry job at a corporate chicken place, fast food place, like that really happens. He's assigned to the front end, and he waits on Jared, which is obviously making fun of Jared from Subway, which is ahead of its time because this was before everybody obviously found out Jared's dark history.
Now that you say that, now remembering it, it's a big old fat dude. It's the guy that's in all other Lloyd Kaufman. I'm trying to think the guy's name, but he's in all the other Kaufman. It's just huge. This dude's massive. Oh, that's
I'll
right.
find the name. Go ahead.
Keep going.
So they give him the meal, but like the evil, or well, not evil, the ancient Indian spirits who are, or native spirits who are, angry. They started like, creating these like weird eggs or whatever that look, completely rotten or whatever. And one of them happens to roll and fall into onto the plate right as it's getting ready to be pushed out to Jared. And while he's eating, he, obviously being the fat ass that he was, he couldn't help but like, eat the weird egg too on top of everything else. And so he, like, minutes after he eats it, he starts getting stomach problems and literally goes in and destroys the bathroom. And you get to see most of it. I mean, it is some of the nastiest.
Destroys the bathroom.
And what happens is that like he literally, his body explodes and a skinnier version of him comes out, and he's like, it actually does work for weight loss, as he's like leaving the bathroom completely destroyed.
Oh my God. Okay, that character, his real name is Joe Flyshaker.
Let me see. Flip it over. Let me see. Yes, that's the dude.
Okay, and he unfortunately passed away in 2016 of a heart attack.
Yeah, but he's a staple in almost all Lloyd Kaufman's
movies. He's literally in all the films. Yeah. He's in
and he plays the best horrible characters.
Well, he's in Terra Firma, like you mentioned. Toxic Avenger, Poultrygeist, the other Toxic Avenger films, Tales from the Crapper, which sounds like he had his very own in Poultrygeist.
He's a classically trained
Farts
film.
of Darkness.
Yes, that's a classic.
You got, oh my God.
You smell your own
classically
farts.
Trained.
Yes.
Oh my God.
You know what other countries say about America? All American, like when we talk about comedy, because America's known for comedy, not other countries really do it. But everybody says American comedy is always fart and dick jokes. Well, you're right, sir. You're right.
This movie, but the reason I say it's the perfect post 9/11 movie is it's got, I mean, literally got all of that. It's got it's got the stuff in there about how they one of the main characters is like a suicide bomber, and like they play it up for comedic effect. They're talking about it's got the nationalistic feel. It's like rah, America, we're gonna put a boot in your ass.
We're number one
mentality.
If you ain't first, you're last.
It's got all that. It's got it's got a lot of comments about corporate fast food and corporate America in general. But it doesn't play sides. Like, it makes fun of the liberals in this movie about as much as it makes fun of the right wing. So I give Lloyd Kaufman credit. He's probably the most libertarian director when it comes to like just giving them hell on both sides.
Yeah,
it's fair and balanced. It sounds like,
dude, he's. I like him because he goes into the areas that you shouldn't go into, and that's what makes it awesome.
I just want to give you a couple lines from one of the duet between the two love interests in the movie, Jason and Kate.
Oh, it's a musical. Fuck that.
Yeah, so I got to give you the lines from this movie, and the second line, and in particular that Kate sings, give you kind of the political, bent this movie has. And so Jason starts out saying, all of these fried chicken wings that I'm serving, they make me yearn for your breasts, legs, and thighs. My hunger for you is unswerving. Without you, my heart starves and dies. Then Kate responds back, all these protests and speeches I'm making to end chicken suffering and slaughter. His only response is that I'm faking that I'm gay like Dick Cheney's daughter.
Oh, that is awesome writing. I'm gonna next time for our anniversary, I'm gonna clip that top part and I'm gonna put that in like a card for you.
Try it.
You will be like, oh, that. And then after you read it, I'm gonna put a bucket of chicken in front of you. Let's eat this together.
And here's a callback in verse 5 to the finger. Since that night, all I have is self-pleasure, bumping uglies, real hard we did crying. Tissue and hand cream, I try to remember how you stuck this thing up my rear ender.
How is that not funny to
you? What the hell?
This is the movie we have.
Oh my God.
That is awesome.
This is not the Poultrygeist that I watched.
You didn't watch it.
I did watch a Poultrygeist. I just didn't watch this one.
Any further comments about the movie before I move on to the rating, and we can move on to Poultrygeist?
No, wait, you might have some.
You know, it'd be awesome, and I don't know if it's gonna happen after he dies, Lloyd Kaufman dies, but it'd be. I don't know if they could even pull it off. It sounded like they'd get a ton of backlash if they set up airings inside all the major cities, like marathons of Lloyd Kaufman's movies.
Well, they have what are those like they have festivals?
Yes.
And they play a lot of
yeah, but these movies are super
they play
edgy.
a lot of risque stuff
No, these are edgy. Like
what's the guy that did Beavis and Butthead? Mike Judge?
Yeah.
Isn't a lot of his shit a little
No.
I thought he had some
Not
crazy
like
shit.
this.
Okay.
Not like this. This is super edgy boy stuff. This is spicy. Like if the topics he goes on, like Terraform is a prime example. A hermaphrodite that gets his pecker cut off from his dad that was molesting him because you wanted him to be a little like that is the most over the top storyline that would offend so many people. And not that, but they smash on both sides, like he said. Lloyd Kaufman's always been good about shitting on the dynamic.
Like I said, he's fair and balanced.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, I think if they even tried to do a festival, they'd get so much backlash from the left.
Yeah, probably theaters wouldn't even allow it, and yeah.
But it'd be awesome to go and just catch a marathon. Like
you can do that. This is
these
not
are
my forte.
See, these are movies I don't think I would even take the kids to go.
No,
watch.
absolutely not, and I would not allow that. Even I have limits.
I'll just take it when you're not around.
Yeah.
You're driving Amazon? Come on, kids, let's go down to the theater.
Oh my God, poor kids.
So the rating I'm going to give this is Willy's Wonderland. It's crazy as fuck with undeveloped characters and just enough plot to string the madness together.
Okay, you have to explain to the Hubs because I've never
Willy's
told.
Wonderland, I love that.
Okay, you got to explain the rating because the Hubs is not aware of our rating system for B films.
So this is the patent pending Nicolas Cage rating system where I take of the many fine films that Nicolas Cage has made and produced over the years. I take and compare the movie basically to it as far as just like the general plot or just like the feel of the movie is in relation to something he's done.
So what's the scale? Give me the range. Is it like a spectrum of how many?
No, it could be any Nicolas Cage
it's
film
literally
that
you can take any movie he's ever been in
Okay.
and say, okay, I give it this movie as the rating.
And Nicolas Cage has a range of
syncs up
films.
this way.
He has horrible films and he has good films. So you can take any range. You can take the best film and be like, hey, this was a really good film. I chose blah, blah, blah because of this. And it doesn't have to relate to the film. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But I think Willy's Wonderland, I think fits in. I haven't seen it, but.
You haven't seen Willy's Wonderland?
Not yet, but based on what I have seen of it, I would say that this fits really well.
See, the problem is Nicolas Cage's character in Willy's Wonderland, in my opinion, sucked. And I don't think it was Nicolas Cage. I think
it was. He had full range. He had like full range of that film, right? He said what he wanted to do,
I
how
think
much.
they gave him carte blanche to do whatever he wanted with that film.
Yeah, because his character, you could have did so much with his character in that movie, and they did
He did the bare minimum.
Not the bare minimum.
Well, not bare, yeah.
The character, his character itself was just like, it was almost a waste, is what it was.
That was what he wanted his character to be.
A waste?
No, not a waste. He wanted his character to be exactly what he portrayed in the film.
Like he didn't care, but he did care.
See, I would argue that you've got to take this into consideration. Nicolas Cage did not act at all in Willy's Wonderland. So
no, he did
one
not.
Of the best performances of his life in the movie Pig that just came out.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He's got to save it up, people. He's
got a wide range.
What's the movie he just did?
Pig, and the kids wanted to see that too. Is that artistic at all? Because it looks not artistic like Soho, but.
It is more of an artistic film. They say it's kind of like a revenge film, but like revenge in the sense that he comes to realize that revenge is more damaging to you than it is to the person you're trying to serve it to, or something like that.
What's the movie about? What's the framing of it?
It basically he's this guy who is a hermit that lives out in the woods, who's got this pig that that obviously the title, that helps him hunt like truffles, and he's like this expert cook. Like he's like a chef that can he combines ingredients and makes like these masterpieces, but nobody gets to experience them because like he's only cooking for himself. And then like through the film, it slowly through the introduction of another character that he becomes attached to, which is this kid who's in a bad situation. He basically it reveals his story and why he is a hermit, and like I don't really know the setup, so I'm speaking out of term on this, but it's like almost like he had like a run in with like like a mob or some kind of like situation like that, and went through this cycle of death and all this that like just he totally burned him out on everything, and that's why he moved away from society.
Basically, someone stole his pig too and sends him on this.
What was it a good movie at all by any margin?
It's rated like one of the best movies that like especially that he's ever done, but like just fantastic, like across the board, like the way that the characters are developed, the acting that he puts into it specifically, like all of it, it's like top notch.
So he phones in Willy's Wonderland, and then he actually shows up to the other one.
Let's be honest. Was Willy's Wonderland ever going to be a masterpiece of sorts?
But it had a lot of good premises to make a good horror movie.
Maybe they didn't make it a great movie because they literally ripped off Five Nights at Freddy's.
I know, so the framework was there.
You
had a lot to pull from.
Did they get the rights to do that, though?
It doesn't matter. They made the movie anyways.
Yeah, that's true, but Reverend, what's your take on that?
On what?
They literally ripped off a really popular kids horror game and used all of the characters in the film that they have in the game, but I don't think they got any kind of permission. Like, I don't see anything.
Well, they twisted it. They're not exactly the same. They basically took like the Shoney's or whatever, model, like let's have these creepy, animatronics, and let's make up our own. Willy's a weasel in Willy's Wonderland, and then they go on from there. There's like some kind of character that's like this almost human, like pixie or whatever, and she's like hypersexual. Like I think she ends up trying to dry hump you while she's stabbing you or something. It's just, but I mean, they take the framework of Five Nights at Freddy's, where you're in the rundown Shoney's at night with the animatronics.
Yeah, and even my kids are like,
from there.
I asked the daughter, I'm like, hey, did they use the Five Nights at Freddy's character? She's like, yes, they did. So even if they're not exactly, they're pretty much 99% accurate.
Let's just give credit where it's due. The whole Five Nights at Freddy's probably probably wouldn't even be a thing if it wasn't for the fact that the guys at Red Letter Media tried to make fun of one of their main guys on that channel, Rich Evans, by posting this real creepy picture of Rich whenever he was a kid at a Shoney's next to the Shoney's bear that said Dick the Birthday Boy.
Yes.
Which is a meme on the internet, and that's probably what led to Five Nights at Freddy's to begin with. So let's give Red Letter Media their credit on all of this.
Dick,
they even mentioned in their video that they probably were the inspiration for Willy's Wonderland. And there's one more movie. It's based upon the Banana Rama people or something like that. That's the same setup as all this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's not too bad. That's actually I watched that with the kids.
Was it the banana splits or?
Yes.
Oh God, I forget what it was called.
No,
I remember that.
That was. I thought that was the name of the movie too. I'm trying to think.
It probably is. I don't really remember that one specifically.
Yeah, because it looks like they had got rights because they're actually, or that, but it was just maybe, I don't quite know, but that was basically the Banana Splits.
Yeah, it was the Banana Splits.
Yeah, and that one's a horror one.
It doesn't even look like it, which is so funny.
But anyways, the rating system is basically that. You just basically take any Nicolas Cage movie and just kind of throw it out there as a rating for the movie. So because as Community pointed out, is Nicolas Cage good or is he bad as an actor? There's no answer to that because he's both.
It's just a yes,
and not both at the same time.
Oh my God, it's so fucking true.
Is he good or bad? Yes.
As Abed would say, he's a sexy cat.
God. If you like this episode of November's What's Up in the Holler, please look forward to our Season 2 premiere of Poultrygeist. Death Holler is brought to you by Los Diablos Blancos Network, with your host, the Reverend Dr. Death and La Arena. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share. You can hear us on most podcast platforms. We hope to catch you next time. And don't forget to bring your death certificate